Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Level Up podcast from agent to entrepreneur. I'm Brendon Payne, and I'm excited to bring you John Senk, who is one of our agents. He's been with us for about 8 years, but he started in a non-traditional role, really as just a lead generator, kind of an ISA for our group. And he's got some really, really important and what I think is timely information so that those that are out there are trying to figure out, how do I really get into a routine of generating business on a daily basis? Because we know it can be a challenge. It's always a challenge to get up every day and commit to going and doing something to build your pipeline. It's even more challenging now as we're in a market with more agents in most markets, and we're also at a time where it's taking more attempts to get a hold of our leads. It's taking more attempts and more follow-up calls to convert our leads. So it adds to the time, and it adds to the monotony, and it adds to the frustration sometimes. And sometimes I believe agents are just kind of wondering, is this the right path? Is this going to actually get me where I want to go? Well, listen up, because John Senk has got an incredible story. I'm going to let him go through and let you know exactly what he's done to go from where he started in this business, from agent now to entrepreneur, and actually running a really strong real estate business for himself. Hope you enjoy.
Okay, hey everyone, it's Brendon Payne again, and today I've got John Senk, who is one of our agents, has been around for several years, and John's going to give some really, really good perspective on lead generation from the listing side. And so John, hey, thanks for getting on the call and sharing some of the stuff that you've experienced over the last few years.
Yep.
Let's bring those that are just tuning in now kind of up to speed. If you can just give me an idea of approximately how long you've been with the company and what you started out doing in the business, and then kind of what you've transitioned to now as being a full-time agent.
Okay, I started probably about 8-9 years ago, and originally what I did, I was just cold calling on Mojo at the time, and I call 50, 60, 70, 100 people a day, and then I would basically get referrals. I would hand them off to Jim Pittman, who was with Greg Harrelson, and they would follow up and get listings and that sort of thing.
Okay. So you were just, when you started, you were primarily just lead generation. You were the first step.
I was the first one on Mojo in our company.
Okay. And how many contacts were you making? Like, what was it? Did you have a goal?
At least 60 a day if we did all day prospecting. I think one day I had 150 a day.
60 contacts, not dials.
Yes. No. 60, 75 a day. Yeah.
60 contacts a day. Okay. So there is, I would venture to say, with your time in the market, but for maybe 6 or 8 agents that have been around longer than you and were really, really doing a lot of prospecting, there probably are only a few people in this company that have actually had more prospecting conversations than you total. I think that's a fair assessment. You've had a ton of experience.
There's a good chance. I think I've probably spoke to more people than any of our company's ever spoken to.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah. Okay, so you were doing that, and that was primarily because that's not that might be more of a unique position. What was the reason that you were doing that versus just coming in and being a licensed agent?
Well, it was kind of like when I started, it was kind of like that's how you had to learn the ropes. So you had to learn the scripts and that sort of thing, and then basically a lot of people start like that, and then they would move on to become their own agents.
Yeah.
That point I was just too scared because there's so many different things to have to learn we learned dot loop and like all that kind of stuff, all the Zillow, how to get a listing. Like I knew how to go through like a presentation, but I know actually once I got a listing signed, what do I even do with it? Like how do I get on the MLS? I had no idea.
Yeah. So you jumped in, said, all right, I can do this lead gen thing, got really, really good at that.
Yes. And I could talk to anyone.
Yeah. I'm assuming that you have an idea of, even though you didn't go out and list them, you didn't service them, you have an idea of kind of what your production was. Do you have any idea kind of what kind of deals
I don't know how many deals I had back then. I know what I've gotten since I've been on my own. I know what I've done.
Okay. So bring us up to that transition. So at some point in time,
I guess it was around November, I guess I went on my own. And since then, the first day I was actually officially my own agent, I had a appointment for someone. It was probably my first few phone calls a day. He said, yeah, I want to list. Come out and list my home. I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, I have no idea what to do. I had a list of everything I had to learn. Dot loop is on there, and I didn't learn that yet.
Yeah. So you went for 7, 8, 9 years just generating, handing them off, and then
Exactly.
about 6 months ago or 5 months ago, you said, "All right, I'm going to make the transition. I'm going to go be an agent."
Yes.
And so now you're a full-time agent.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So tell me about because what you were doing before and what you're doing now, there won't be, at least in your morning routine, there shouldn't be, won't be, and can't be any major change in
No.
what your generating schedule looks like. So tell me, what is your generating schedule like right now? What does that look like?
I show up here probably about 7:30, and I do send out some emails in the morning. And as soon as 8 o'clock hits, I'm calling expires from 8 to 9.
Okay.
Then from 9 to 10, I usually call follow-ups for follow-ups.
Yep.
And then, or if I don't have a whole lot to follow up on, I'll do an auto dollar from up till 11 o'clock.
Okay. Auto just meaning going through and doing just listed, just sold calls.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so and I think it's a really, really important thing that the audience, people that are listening to this, understand, is that John started out purely generating leads, and he was handing them off. Just the circumstances where he was handing them off to his team leader. Now he's moved on to doing his own thing. He's his own agent, his own business owner, but nothing can change. So the critical part of what he does, regardless of where the leads go, is he's generating leads. And that's never going to change with you, right?
No.
Okay. So obviously, with that type of schedule and that type of commitment to it, you bought into the process of lead generation very, very early on. And I know it's not easy to do that every single day, to come in and do that why do you think you've been so successful with it?
It's just part of the job. It's what you got to do. And I always thought it was funny when I would call someone 9, 10 o'clock who's a local number, and he tell me they're a real estate agent. And I'm like, what are you guys doing home? Like, why aren't you working? Like,
right.
It's just
you even though they're an agent, you're like, I should probably sell your home because they're doing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just bought in and said, hey, this is how we get business.
Yeah, it's the job.
Yeah. And so I think one of the interesting things is, even though you were the beginning process, there is no possible way that you would still be around if you weren't generating leads. Like your entire job wasn't generate a lead, go get a listing, go get a reduction, go get a contract, negotiate. It was just generating.
Yeah.
So you were good at it. You are good at it. All right. What are some of the challenges then, as you've looked back? What are some of the challenges that people go through?
The biggest challenge in this is just the monotony that you got to deal with, and having the people hang up on you, and having the people say, F you, don't call me again. And not taking that personal. I'm just moving on and calling the next person and being as cheerful as you can to the next person.
Yeah. So how do you do that?
It doesn't bother me. It's just part of the game.
Yeah. You just decided that, the switch is going to be that, hey, this isn't personal. I don't know them. They don't know me.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so have you had scenarios where you literally call somebody and they hang up on you, or they curse you out, and then all of a sudden, either the next call or very soon after that, somebody is just, they're just the nicest person in the world, or maybe you generate a lead, like almost back to back?
Yeah, I've had that happen. Yes. I thought it was funny. One of the listings I have now, I don't know where it was as far as when I got the listing in my timeline, but he's actually someone who hung up on me and said, F you, I'm not listing it. Yeah. I texted him later on that day, or I emailed him, and he actually called me back, and I have him listed. We've had 25 showings on his property. I think we're going to get it sold. Yeah. He's actually a guy who hung up on me, who cursed me out, said he's never going to list with me. And he doesn't realize that I'm the guy he actually hung up on.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And so the lesson in that for newer people is that, listen, it doesn't, like, those things don't matter. Like, there is no correlation between you call somebody today and they hang up on you, could be the person that you turn around and list next week or later on today. it's a response. Don't make it mean anything more than you already, than it does. It is what it is, and move on to the next call.
It's just part of his smoke screen it's part of his smoke screen, because he's probably gotten 15 calls in the morning. The guy's upset, his blood pressure's high, and I just happen to be the one to send him over the top.
Yeah.
I still got him listed.
Yeah. And the reality is, if we can't control it, then don't let it control you with how it, you respond for the rest of the day. So, what advice? So let's put you in the mind of a brand new person that's coming in, and they're like, okay, I buy in, I see the results that people get. What advice would you have for, say, a new licensee or somebody that's transferring in and knows that they want to start generating some leads on their own? What advice would you have for them?
I think you have to learn the scripts. You have to have them internalized. Obviously, you're not going to say the actual script on the phone eventually, but you have to know it, because you have to know where the script is going to, where the conversation is going to go, to be able to know where to take it to be able to get a listing.
Yeah. So how did you go through? I think that's a really good point. How did you go through learning the scripts? Do you remember? I mean, because obviously they're deep internalizing you now. But
yeah, I could say this. Yeah, I know it inside, but it's you just learn the conversation, and as it goes, you see where different objection handlers took you, and where you handled it, and where that led you, and you pretty much just learn the correct road to take eventually.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that we always talk about with agents that are getting into this business is you have the reps behind you. So there's going to be you've probably had just about every response to every one of the questions that you could ever ask. Yes. And in the beginning, you probably screwed a lot of them up, and then you went
I did.
Help, or you're like, well, that didn't work. Let me try something else. So
exactly,
the repetition is the key, because that's where you learn the conversation. But as you said earlier, the repetition is also the challenge that you have to overcome. But that's just what you have to do.
Yes.
So the lead generation is going to require you to overcome that, and the reps are gonna allow you to actually find some success in the job. So great information, John. I appreciate you hopping on and sharing this stuff. And I know you've got an awesome future. now that you've transitioned to being a full-time agent.
It's not as scary as I thought it was going to be. It was actually very easy.
Yeah, and you did the hardest part.
Yeah,
you became an expert at the hardest part. So awesome. I appreciate it, John.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
Wow, what a story John's got, going from an ISA position, making 60, 70, 80 contacts a day, and transitioning into a full-time agent where he's obviously got an incredibly bright future in front of him. I want to point out a couple things that I wrote down in notes, and I've watched this a few times and shared it with a lot of people. A couple things that just takeaways that I think are really, really important that John brought up. Number one was, if you heard him say, like, when I asked him, how does he do this? Like, how does he continue to do this? He just understands that we're in sales. We're in sales, and his job every single day, his only role was to go out and hunt, go out and find things to fill the pipeline of his team. That was his role. It's just part of what he says is the game. That's just what his role was. It's so critical to understand that is what he sees as his role as a salesperson. Now, the interesting thing is, he still sees it that way. So even though he's moved on and now he's doing his own deals, he still knows that he won't have any deals to do, just like his team wouldn't have any to do, if he doesn't get up and generate every single day. The second one is, he mastered the most difficult part of the job as the very first thing. Now, it was kind of by default. If you heard, he mentioned he was scared. He didn't start out as a brand new agent because he was scared. He didn't know if he was going to be successful at it. So he decided, you know what, let me master the lead generation, and then at that point, I can move on. At some point, and maybe 2 or 3 years in, he still didn't know if he was going to move on to be an agent. He was just continuing to get better at his craft. And I think that's so critical, because right now there's a lot of things that are pulling at us as agents and saying, well, maybe you should become a master at this. John didn't go in and master trying to do SEO. He didn't go in and try to master how to be doing Facebook ads. He didn't go in and master anything except how to have a real estate conversation with buyers and sellers so that he could pass that lead on. That was his job. And the last one that I think is really important is his reps. those contacts did one very important thing for him over the years. They gave him an incredible amount of confidence. So back to what he originally said, when I said, why didn't you just start out as an agent? Why'd you go this route? I was scared. I didn't know whether I was going to be able to make it or not, so I started out just focusing on leads. Those reps convinced him that he can have these conversations. When he hands somebody off to his team lead and they go list the property, sell, and he gets paid, he realized, okay, maybe I can do this. Reps gave you confidence. And that confidence is the name of this game. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to get a hold of myself or my partner, Greg Harrelson, you can find us on Facebook. Messenger is a great way. Also, John Senk, connect with us, and I'm sure he'll answer any questions for you. Have a great day, and look forward to talking with you in the next one.